Listen. The music loves me. Introduce them. Eh, 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 eh. Hey, everybody. Hey. Real quick check in. Let me know in the comments if you can hear me. Okay. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clearly. All right. So, welcome back to Introducing Podcast, where we explore new ways of thinking and new ways of being. I'm your host, Smart Video Girl. And I am so glad that you are here with me. Yes, thank you. That is an affirmative on the microphone working. Thank you, Corlin. I appreciate you. So today's episode is a continuation of our deeper dive into authenticity and alignment. And we're going to do a big one today. Okay. This one is all about self leadership and the power of person. I'm back. We are talking about the power of personal boundaries, self leadership, and the power of personal boundaries. Okay. So, let me know that you're in the building. Hi, welcome. I'm so glad that you are here today. Leadership. Lead yourself first, the power of personal boundaries. So, we hear so much about leadership in business and communities and families, but how often do we talk about being the leaders of ourselves? How many times do we really talk about leadership from a individual personal accountability standpoint? I wrote an article a long time ago about the need for us to become the leaders of ourselves. And it was important because I was stating in that article that a lot of times we're looking for people to lead us, right? Because when we think about leaders, especially in the Black community, we have the Martins and the Malcolms and the Marcus Garveys and the Obamas and there's so many quote unquote leaders. But when we learn to be the leader of ourselves, then we can really start to create some effective change, right? Because now we start to take personal accountability for how we show up in community, in business. Oh, excuse me, confirmation burp. My bad. All right. So we're going to talk about that. How often do we talk about leadership for ourselves? And then we're going to be setting boundaries. And it just isn't about saying no, it's about saying yes, right? It's about saying yes to what aligns with you. We've already talked about this. Only if it resonates, only if your pillars are the foundation for your life. It makes it easier to make decisions when saying yes and no, these boundaries that we're going to create today. So, don't forget, I hope you have your journals. Grab your journals, grab your pens, and we're going to get into it. So let's do this. Let's do this. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so we got people in the building. Let me know you are here. Thank you so much for joining. If you are here, tell me where you're from, where you're from. If you have a comment, let me know. This is interactive. We work through some things right here on the spizot. All right. All right. So, what is self leadership? What is self leadership? Right? Self leadership is a practice of understanding who you are. Sounds familiar, right? Identifying your desired experiences and intentionally guiding yourself towards them. This is basically taking yourself where you want to go. It sounds crazy, right? But who else is going to do that? Who else is going to take you where you want to go? Who else knows where you need to go but you, right? And so that's why the pillars from last week were very important, because it's important to know what your foundation is. What are your desired experiences? Who is it that you show up authentically? How does it resonate with you? Because then you are able to navigate your life and lead yourself, right? Lead yourself through self leadership, right? And you know what it is, right? And so then we have boundaries. And what's boundaries? Boundaries, and in this case, we are talking about spiritual boundaries, not so much physical boundaries. I'm really talking about from a spiritual standpoint. I'm talking about a boundaries that protect your right to believe and practice your spiritual beliefs without coercion or undue influence. Okay, both of these are definitions that I got off the internet, so you can look them up yourself. But boundaries and self leadership, that's what we're talking about today. And so the comments say, let's see, Tay says, if there's one thing I've learned about boundaries for myself, as I am learning more about myself, my boundaries change. Girl, are you in my notes? Have you been reading? I'm proud of you for that revelation because that is the truth. Okay. The truth of the matter is boundaries grow with us. They're not a one-time decision. They grow with you. So you are spot on time. T. There you go. I'm like, why am I trying to? I know who you are. Hey T. Boundaries are not, it's a practice. It's not a one-time decision. You don't set a boundary today and it becomes your life for the rest of your life. So that is a very good observation. So yes, boundaries are practice. They're not a one-time thing. But again, we're talking about lead yourself, the power of boundaries. And we've already defined what self leadership looks like and what boundaries look like. Now, when we put them all together, and what do you get? Ding dong, hot dog. Don't mind me. Sorry. All right. When you are looking at these boundaries that you are setting for yourself as you set up for your self leadership, just understand that these are not trends. Okay. You don't want to be changing. You don't want to have your pillars trendy. You want them to be something that's long standing, that really resonate with who you are at your core. Okay. So I have actually been working with some of you guys offline, talking through what it really looks like, what is really my pillar. Someone came to me and we were talking it out and they were like, yeah, I have a pillar, but how do I say it? It's like, no longer accepting the things that are not, that I'm that don't no longer fit me or something to that extent. And worthiness came up for me. And so the pillar there is self-worthiness, self-worthy. Okay. So work through those things, talk it out. That's why the journal is important. Okay. That's why the journal is important. All right. So again, when you have the ability to lead yourself, no one can take you anywhere you don't want to go. I'm just going to put that there. When you are the leader of yourself, no one can take you where you don't want to go. All right. So the connection here between self leadership and boundaries is you cannot fully lead yourself or anyone without clear intentional boundaries, because again, these help guide you. The foundation, the pillars, these boundaries are what fortify that, right? That allows you to kind of build up in a way. Hey, Jovi, good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. So we want to make sure that we are building intentional boundaries that are aligned with the pillars that we have set for ourselves as the foundation for who we are authentically, right? Boundaries, right? Boundaries are so important because boundaries protect the things that are important to us, right? What are some things that you think boundaries protect? Boundaries are very important. They protect your energy, they protect your time, and they protect your values. Those are those pillars that we've been talking about. If you don't have clear intentional boundaries, people will try to cipher your energy. They will come in and try to take your energy, right? They will try to eat up your time. Yes. Yes, they will take your time, right? And they will step all over your boundaries. I mean, all over your values, right? Y'all saw the Charlie Murphy joint on the Dave Chappelle when he was acting like Prince, and they was all disrespectful. They disrespected that man's couch. They will disrespect your values if you do not set clear boundaries. Okay? People will they will disrespect your values if you do not have clear boundaries. So let's be clear on our boundaries. All right. Let's be clear on our boundaries because we got to have clear boundaries. We want to be able to tell people, instruct them, give them guidelines in how they operate with us, right? That's going to resonate. That's how that works. Okay. That's just how that works. All right. They're not walls to keep people out. They're filters to protect your peace. And you know, I love that because peace was one of my pillars. So in order to protect my peace, that's why peace was very important because anything that was not protecting my peace was not coming in the club. You said there was somebody at the door. It was somebody at the door, and this was a description. It said peace, freedom, self-respect. What? My pillars: peace, freedom, self-respect, divinity. If they not on this list, they can't come in. That's boundaries. No entry. You can't come in. That's what we're talking about today. That's what we're talking about. That's how the pillars that we've been talking about that you developed last week, that you've been working on, that you've been thinking about and contemplating. I know you have because you let me know. These are how the pillars show up in setting boundaries and being the leader of yourself. Okay. Leading yourself also means saying yes when something aligns and saying no when it doesn't. And the only way you know what aligns and what doesn't is if you take the time to practice, right? To set your pillars, set that foundation, right? And then build on them by creating something that's going to protect and fortify them. Those are your boundaries. So yes, there's love. That's the club list again. The club list. If you ain't on the list, you ain't getting in. Period. Sorry. Not tonight. Come back when you're more peaceful. That's all right. And so, and this is really good for entrepreneurs. This is good for creatives. This is good for caretakers. And I know people that I know are on this call today. The people that I know that are in this building are all of those things. They're creatives, they're caretakers, and they are entrepreneurs. And see, as an entrepreneur, when you fall into this realm where you're kind of like servicing other people, you think you're servicing other people, this line of boundaries gets swayed, right? Because you think you're being flexible or you think you are really serving for others, showing up for others. But you have to be clear, you have to be intentional about whether or not it actually aligns with who you are, because everybody is not the same. Entrepreneurship does not come with a standard wardrobe of how you're supposed to act and operate. It doesn't. It doesn't. No two people are the same. No two products are the same. No two businesses are the same. And so as an entrepreneur, you still have to be able to set up boundaries, especially if you're an entrepreneur and a mother and like myself, and if you work too, you better have some boundaries or you will be crazy. Okay. All right. Because true leadership of yourself is being able to use that no. And we talked about that last week. I think we talked about using that no, because that no is powerful. You have to be able to know how to use it. And the boundaries help you learn how to use that no. Mm-hmm. All right. So boundaries. C. Jones says boundaries protect your peace and well-being. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And Tay said one of the values and what I stand on is love. Anything trying to penetrate that, it is not love. That is a no-go. I got you. No hate over here, right? Say no hate. No hating. No hateration. Keep your hate over there. But see, it's easy to say that when you know you stand on business, that love is the answer. See? You only know that because that you stand on business with that, and that's what we're talking about. So very good, very good, very good, guys, on that. So again, leadership is not about more doing. It's about doing what matters most. And boundaries help you define that. Okay? There's no point of running around like a chicken with your hair cut off just to say you're checking off things. You're not being efficient. You're not living efficiently if you're not standing on your business and enforcing your boundaries. That's it. That's what I have to say about it. That's just what I have to say about it. All right. So um now what happens when you don't enforce your boundaries, right? You know that you stand on business. You know that love is the key, right? And you hang around a whole bunch of haters. Ooh, ooh. You hang around a whole bunch of people who got a lot of hateration in their blood. What do you do with that, right? What do you do with that? Because what will happen is when I know, and this is for me, like if I'm in a space where I know that my peace is disrupted, and I know my peace is disrupted because I could feel it in my stomach, I could feel it like in my gut, right? Only if it resonates, your body will give you signs. So we're not talking about leaky gut syndrome, but we are kind of in a sense where we're talking about leaky boundaries. How are the things that are not aligned with you? How are they getting in? And then what do they make you feel like? That's resentment, right? Resentment is one of those things. Exhaustion is another thing. And avoidance is something else. Because, see, when you have clear boundaries, you can confront or you can deal and face the things that are hard because you know where you stand. Okay. And it's not about convincing someone else to see your point, but it's the ability to communicate how you feel and where you stand in a particular situation. So it is understanding that when boundaries are unclear or missing, your energy gets drained and your identity gets blurred. Like there's confusion. Like if you're not clear on your boundaries, then anything can take place. Anybody can come in and say anything and do anything, and you will resent people. Why? Because you did not know how to use your no, right? You didn't realize that as part of your boundary of self worth, you were allowing yourself to be uh, devalued in a relationship. You're going to be resentful towards that partner. You're going to be exhausted for trying to always be worthy of being in a relationship because of this this so when you feel that it's time, this relationship's not working for you. That's not working for you. You have to be the leader to say, and so you don't avoid the situation. You don't just roll out and don't say nothing, right? Or you could, but it depended on the situation. But in a healthy, even if when you walk away, to be able to say, yeah, no, this is not working for me. Um, and that's what it sounds like. This is not working for me. Yeah, that's okay to say. Yeah, this is not working for me. People don't like to hear that, but if something don't work for you, it don't work for you. People can't make it work for you. And you don't have to necessarily explain it to them why it does not work for you. You only do that if you value the relationship and you see the importance of the person understanding where you're coming from. But really, it not doesn't work for me. That's a boundary I'm not willing to cross. This doesn't work for me. But what I can do is this, okay? Because now you know what you have the capacity for, whereas before you were just allowing everything in. You had no boundaries. And now you can lead yourself accordingly in different situations, in different relationships. Hey, Tiffany. Hey, love. I'm so glad you could stop by. Today we're talking about leadership and the power of boundaries. So, I'm so glad you could stop by. You guys I'm so feeling the love. I definitely appreciate you for being here. All right. So let's see what else. Saying yes when you're exhausted. Raise your hand. I want to see those hands in the chat. Raise your hand if you have been guilty, and it's okay because this is no judgment here, no judgment here. But you have said yes when you have been extremely exhausted. I know my mother is a blessing, right? She helps me watch my children as a single mom. I live in a multi-generational household, and my mom does help me out a lot with the kids, and she will do it hands down, no questions asked. But I know sometimes she want to say no, and I had to tell her, "Mommy, say no. You can say no." Because that's a boundary. I'm tired. I can't do it. And she does better now. So she'd be like, Chris, I can't do it today. Or I'm not gonna be able to I'm not gonna this doesn't work for me, Chris. And guess what? Respectfully, I say, no problem. No harm, no foul. No, that's a there's and see the ability for me to accept that that's what it is for her. That's a healthy relationship. That's healthy. I don't have to question why. Why can't you do it for me today? You usually do it for me. No, that's not. No, that's it. And so when you get pushback from people like that, when you're trying to enforce your boundaries, pay attention because what that person is saying to you is that they don't care about what you feel. I sip my water on that one. Okay. Mm. Okay. If you get pushback when you try to set up boundaries, when you try to use your no, be mindful of that because that means that the person that you're in the relationship with does not respect your personal authority. Yeah. All right. Feeling resentment after helping someone. Okay. Over apologizing or over explaining. There it is again. She don't have to tell me why she don't want to do why it doesn't work for her right now. That's none of my business. Respectfully, and I respect that. That's not my business. And the last one is avoiding hard conversations that keep peace. These are things that are leaky boundaries. Like if you can't face the conversations, like even if it's difficult, having hard conversations is important, and it could be a sign of leaky boundaries if you are avoiding it, right? Because what you're saying is I don't need like that means like clarity and confidence and clarity are not really part of you rather deal in chaos and confusion because if you don't want to get clarity, if you don't want to talk about it, especially if you're in a relationship, then then you're not really standing on the fact that clarity and confidence are your pillars. So if those are some of the pillars that you have in your list, then you're definitely going to be someone who wants to have those conversations in order to bring the clarity into a situation because that's important to you. We're going to face these things today. All right. So these leak outs can lead to all kinds of issues in your life if you don't if you don't address them. Okay. All right. So let's see. Where have I personally Oh, I just shared the story earlier today. I'm in the process of doing a really big project. It means so much to me. This project is enormous. This is a project that I've been working on for a very, very long time. If you know, you know, and if you don't, you'll find out very soon. But I was on the phone with the consultants that I have been working with for this project. And I mean, they were trying to sell me on something. They were trying to sell me on everything. They were trying to upsell me, trying to say, hey, did you think about this? Did you think about this? And because I was so clear and intentional about what the purpose was for me in hiring this particular group to manage this project, I had to cut my homie off. I said, skirt, Please don't try to sell me on anything. I said, my sole goal in this project is to do X. And I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give it away because I'll share it later. But I was very clear and I said, I appreciate everything that you're doing. I said we can kind of cross that bridge later. We can talk about those things later. But I said, but at this particular point, what I want to do is cross that finish line for this first part of the project. I said, once we get there to it, I was clear and intentional. And because I knew I had the control in myself because I was intentional, I was able to lead him and the team into the direction that I needed for them to go because I was clear. So being the leader of myself. So even though I'm paying them in the situation, I'm still the leader. I'm still the project leader because everything has to flow through me. So if I don't know what I want or how I want to go about doing this, how can I tell them? And this was a very important lesson that I learned in um, self leadership and setting clear intentional boundaries too. Because if I wasn't clear, I'd be to spend tens of thousands of dollars on this project for all the things that they were trying to sell me. And I said, oh, no, sir, no, we're not doing that today. No, no, we are not. Not today. And so, no, yes, the no ninja. You got to be a no ninja. You gotta learn how to use your no, like yeah, like nah. Yeah, nah. I'm good. I'm good. My son is a master at that. My son. Oh my gosh. My son at 13 is a very good example of someone who knows himself and is comfortable. He will say, nah, I'm good in a minute. And people will be like, oh, uh, I let him do that because I give him that freedom. That's the self. He knows what it is that he stands on, and so he's good at that. I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from him. Shout out to all the moms and the mothers and parents out there who get to learn from your kids because they're great. All right. But yeah, that's just the personal examples of we can use um how you can use that no, how you can really stand in having a solid no. All right. That's right. That's my boy. So now, how do we set and honor boundaries? How do we do that? Because we're talking about the misconception of what happens when you have leaky boundaries and things like that. But how do you set them? How do you actually set them? And like we said before, boundaries are not permanent. They change. They change as you change. As you grow, they grow. All right. So what you have today as a boundary may not be the boundaries that you have in 5 years as you continue to grow. Okay. They're not a one-time decision, they grow with you. You may get comfortable. You know what I'm saying? You may feel okay with being able to say yes to some things once you realize that you have the capacity to do that. Okay. But until then, yeah, no is the answer. Okay. Boundaries again are practice, not a one-time decision. Okay, so let's say one of the things you can do is start by getting clear what your non-negotiables are. What are your non-negotiables? Like T said earlier, love. Love is a non-negotiable for her. Peace and freedom are non-negotiables for me. I mean, it's easy. I can wake up if it disrupts my peace or threatens my freedom. No. And I can say that easily. And that's how you start to set these boundaries by having those pillars. The pillars become your non-negotiables, right? The pillars become the non-negotiables because check this out. If you knock one of those pillars down, the whole thing comes crumbling. You knock a pillar down, the whole building's going to fall. You knock one of your pillars that you stand on, and what happens to you? What happens to your authentic self? Where does that leave you? So, what are your non-negotiables? What are those non-negotiables? Okay. Um, and boundaries don't always have to be harsh. Okay. I know I say no, and my no is can be very strong sometimes, but it does not have to be no. But then again, it does have to be stern and firm for those who may not or who are not used to you being or standing in this power that you may have developed. Okay. So, learning how to say, I'm not available at this time, like setting a calendar. Like a lot of the things that we may do on a regular basis, says setting a calendar could be intentional, and it could be intentional for the things that you are going to do versus the things that you're not going to do. So you're going to wake up, you're going to meditate, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Anything else, if it fits into it, then you can do it. So that's, you can say yes to those things, right, that fit around those non-negotiables. That's a way to build boundaries as well. And then, you're not available, or I'm focused on growing right now. If it doesn't involve me growing, I can't do it. I'm focused on me, and that's okay. I think a lot of times we are afraid to say, I'm focusing on me. I don't know why. I don't know why. Self-respect, respect yourself. Who else is going to do it if you don't? That's all I'm going to say. All right. That's all I'm going to say. And you do it with love. I would love to participate. I would love to assist you with that. I can't do it like that. I can't do it in that way. I can do it like this, or I can't do it at this time, maybe at a later time. Um, this is how you start to prioritize yourself without being such a brick wall. Because you don't have to be a brick wall. People don't have to run up against you and get knocked out. Okay. You don't have to be like me. Sometimes people get knocked out coming up against me. I'm working on that. Okay. But with that being said, they don't have to get knocked out. Your no doesn't have to be so harsh that it turns people off, because that's not really what you're trying to do either, right? You're just trying to get people to understand that I prioritize myself. All right. So I appreciate you for that. All right. So expect discomfort. Expect discomfort, because what are we doing? We are growing. And when you grow, there is discomfort, because you're doing something that you're not familiar with. You're doing something that's different. And so when you're doing something that you're unfamiliar with, there's an adjustment period that has to happen. All right. Of course, it may be hard to set boundaries if you never ever set a boundary ever in your life. If you never really learned how to say no, and then all of a sudden you start using no, it's going to be some discomfort. It's going to be discomfort for you having to say it, speak up for yourself, and it's going to be discomfort for the people who run up against you, who be like, no. They be like, "What I did last time," and you be like, "Well, not today." Today the road is closed. No more. It's done. That's it. All right. Because boundaries is self-trust in action. Boundaries says, I know what's good for me. I know what's good for me. Nobody can tell me what's good for me. Nobody can tell me what I need right now in this moment in order to be my true authentic self. Okay? And when you can do that, amen, hallelujah, you have really developed and set boundaries and learned how to honor yourself. In that, you've learned how to really step into your authentic power, be who you are, and state it with authority and love. Because love leads, right? We lead with love here. All right. Okay. All right. So, and what you can do is, because boundaries change all the time, is what you should do is create a audit schedule for your boundaries. Okay, because see, sometimes you might want to be like, sometimes you be like, I can't come outside today because I'm studying, I'm learning, and I'm in hermit mode, and I need the solitude, and I need the peace, I need that. And then you need to go outside. Then you need the people, then you need the energy, then you need to be in environments that allow you to interact with people. So you have to evaluate that, because if somebody asks you to go to brunch and you in hermit mode, you might say no. And you say, I would love to do that. I would love to go to brunch, but I can't right now because I'm working on me. I would love, I would love, I would love, I would love to do those things, but I can't right now because I'm working on me. That's a good one. All right. So let's do that. All right. We don't want to be drained. We want to be full. Make sure you fill that cup, and your boundaries will help you do that. Learn how to say no. I like that word. No, no, no. If you say no in like different languages, it's still no. I love it. Anyway. All right. So, all right. So let's see. Share a story or moment where setting a boundary helped you grow. Is there a time where you set a boundary for yourself and it helped you grow? I know I can say that for myself because see what we're talking about really this is and I'm going to get into a little bit this later and we're talking about really using your boundaries as a guideline. So remember last week we talked about the pillars and we said pillars are not goals, they're your guiding um they're kind of like your guiding posts. They're your guiding principles, right? And so the boundaries help you stay within those guiding principles, right? It helps you stay that. So when you do that, you start to get in alignment with who you are, right? You see how we're getting to this point where where it's all coming together of who we are authentically. So we're coming from this place of we're looking for alignment with your authentic self, not perfection. So we're not trying to be perfect. We're not trying to be anybody else. We're not trying to be something that we're not, but we're trying to be everything that we are. I'm just trying to be everything. I'm just trying to be me. And your boundaries are your boundaries. They're nobody else's. Nobody else's. So let me see a moment. Um, it's been so many. Actually, I'm in a space right now where me setting a boundary has helped me grow. Cause see, boundaries even can be like the people that you hang around. It could be the people that you hang around in the environment and the people that you keep company. And sometimes you will see that you're in a relationship with people and you guys are not on the same page. And sometimes that's okay because, again, the goal is not perfection. The goal is not a cookie cutter. We're not all alike, right? We're not all alike. But sometimes you do, as you're growing, you may grow in and out of relationship with people because you're misaligning now. Where you were at some point probably fit. But now as you have grown, you no longer fit into that space. And so you have to change the boundaries so you can't no longer go there because when you go there, you shrink yourself. And we're not doing that. We're not shrinking because that's one of your pillars. I'm not going to play small. I'm not going to disrespect myself, right? So if that's a pillar for me, I'm going to stay out of places where um, I have to shrink myself. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Absolutely not. Not today. And so, with that being said, how can you do that? So, I have moved out of spaces and places and around certain circles where I no longer I no longer fit because who I am authentically showing up does not fit into that space anymore. And you have to be okay with that. Again, we're talking about self leadership, right? You have to be okay with that. Then that's when you know you have to move, right? Because you can't stay in the same place. You can't. I can outgrow the pot. The pot's gonna bust, and then we all be out. But why would I do that if I know that I'm outgrowing this pot? It's time for me to move. Leadership means leadership. If you're talking about companies in business as a leader in the company, and you evaluate, you look and say, oh man, this market is not working. We got to do something. We got to find a new product. We got to do something. You got to get the team. You have to move. You have to grow. That is the same thing you have to do with yourself. You have to gather up yourself, all the pieces of you, and continue to move forward in your journey of growth and setting boundaries for that. Says, I can't go to that space because when I go to that space, I shrink myself and I don't want to be shrunk anymore. Only if it resonates. And you know that. Okay. Discipline is a key in setting your boundaries. Because once you set a boundary, then you have to enforce that. And in enforcing it, again, it doesn't always have to be so harsh, but it does have to be stern and on point. You can't be no second guessing about it. Make it known what it is that your intention, what your boundary is, so that people will understand and act accordingly. There you go. Hmm. Or not, because you don't have to act accordingly. You don't, and that'll be then up to me again. Because if I'm a leader in a company, if I set the we have code of conduct and you violate the code of conduct, guess what? You get fired. So if you violate the code of conduct or you violate my pillars, then you get to be removed from my life. That's it. And it's okay. We're all okay. We're all okay. So again, you guys know I love a good journal prompt. I love a good journal prompt. So I hope you got your journals out, because in talking about boundaries, I want to be clear that boundaries are something that we don't really talk about because they feel constrictive and restrictive, but they're actually the opposite. They actually free up space. They open up capacity when you set boundaries, because what you're saying is, I know what I can hold, and then therefore you fill it up with the things that are of good. And when you do that, there's expansion that happens. You grow as a result of really enforcing your boundaries, believe it or not, in a healthy way. Believe it or not, in a healthy way. Because too, it's also kind of like that resistance in the gym. When you have to enforce a personal boundary, when you have to say no, right? I think I'm good at it now because I practiced. No, 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 no. I practiced. But if you don't practice saying no, then you won't have that muscle. So if you don't practice enforcing your boundaries, you can't just set that boundary. I'm not going to do this no more. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. And don't always let it be things that you're not going to do. Okay. Don't think of boundaries as so restrictive as what it is you're not going to do, but more again of what it is, that the capacity that you have the ability to do. All right, because we want to speak affirmatively about what it is, because that's why I think boundaries get a bad name. It's because they feel restricted. They feel like you're trying to keep people away, or you're trying to create distance or separation. And we know that there is no separation, right? There is no separation. But a good, healthy boundary will give you an indicator of the capacity that it is that you're able to handle. And so that you can say when no is and what yes is. That's really the power that comes from having nice, healthy, boundaries that are planted firmly in your pillars. Now you have the capacity to grow into your authentic self without interruption. Come on, somebody. You have the ability to grow in your personal capacity to what it is that you're really trying to achieve and to grow into. Okay, I don't even know where that came from, but God be the glory. Okay, God be the glory. All right, so all right. Get your journals because we're about to do this journal prompt. Y'all know I like a good, nice, quick show. All right. So, because we are going to grow, we're talking about personal development and the power of boundaries. And so, the journal prompt for today is what? Where in my life am I compromising my boundaries to be accepted? And then, what boundary can I set this week to support who I am becoming? That last question lends itself to the point I just made. What boundary can I set that will support me and who I'm becoming? What that says is I'm going to set a boundary. I'm right here. I'm right here in the middle of my piece, right? I can go arm's length that way, all the way around. There's going to be peace around here. So I'm setting that boundary. I have the capacity within this space to maintain my peace, right? And if I go outside of that, well, it may disrupt my peace. I'm not ready to do that yet. I don't know if I'm ready to do that. That's okay. But you know your boundary. You know where your peace lives, right? And you're able to accommodate or have the capacity to deal with life in that way. It becomes a way of not getting burnt out, stressed out, resentful, all the things that we talked about already. Because what happens when you stretch yourself outside the boundaries is that's what happens. And we have to normalize that not being okay. I think it's normal to be discomforted. I don't know if I'm saying these words right. It's normal to put yourself in discomfort for other people. I mean, I don't know. That makes me itch personally. It makes me itch. Um if it works for you, it works for you. Again, but it makes me itch. I I can't. So I know my boundaries, and I've set them up accordingly. Um, and sometimes, write your boundaries down. You don't have to announce your boundaries either, right? You don't have to go around saying, okay, so this is what it is now. Please don't do this and don't do that. And no, 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 no. It's more so you encounter someone who may come up against your boundary. You say, hey, listen, love, listen. That's great and all, but me personally, I don't really do that, and then you leave it like that. This person now has been notified that you have a boundary, right? That's the first step. So there's also, this is the enforcement of it. They have been notified now, right? So two, this person may have a tendency to violate this. There may be a reaction once you put them on notification, right? So once you put them on notification, if their reaction is one of ha, and they wave you off, just beware. That on you is now. It's on you now. You don't even have to try to see if they're going to violate. Why would you do that? You know what? I'm just not even going to even put myself in a situation. They would literally have to and be intentional about violating my boundary, right? Before I actually allow them to do that. But if someone is open and they hear your boundary and they respect it, but they're not used to this interaction with you, then you give them gentle reminders. Hey, no, just a little reminder. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do that. That's not working for me right now. And we can circle back later. There you go. That's it. I realized that I've had boundaries for a very, very long time. And I've told a couple of people this story from high school. I don't know if my mom knows this story, but she's about to find out right now. So it was high school. It was my senior year in high school, and I remember that me and Shayla, I believe it was a basketball game. I don't mean to be putting your business out there, my best friend. So we were at a basketball game, and then for whatever reason, because we were young girls, and I don't know where we was going. I don't know where we was going. I have no clue where we was going. But we end up somewhere at some boy's house, right? Don't judge me, judge your mama. And we end up at some boy's house, and it was whole. I don't even remember all the details. All I know is there was um the assumption that we was about to do something that I was like, I'm not doing that. Crystal's not doing that. Even as a teenager. Thank you, Holly. Oof. Mm, 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 Sometimes the spirit catches me like that, and you will see me go into a moment. I'm going to do it. Just I'm gonna do it right there. But there was this moment. There was something in me said, it was a boundary that I didn't even know I had. It was something that was like, yeah, you're not doing that. That's not what you do. So I was clear on it. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. And they were like, well, we're gonna put you out if you don't do it. And I'm like, well, you had to put me out. And I believe we were like, people I was with, they were like, well, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna get home? Because we ain't no car. I telling you, why we were there, how we got there, the circumstances, all of that. Don't ask me, okay? That's a whole different situation. But I know what happened in that moment. I was like, no, we're not doing that. I'm not doing that. And they did put us out. And they did. And we did have to walk a little bit in the dark. But then I do remember that somebody kind of came and they picked us up and they took us back to where we started, which is the school, which we should have never left in the first place. But that was a case where my boundaries, I was like, no. And it's like, it saved us in a sense, even though it may have seemed like it caused danger, because somebody else would have been like, well, you should just done what they were going to do. No, standing on business. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that, because this is the other thing. All right. Now I'm about to go there. I'm about to go there. This is the other thing. When you stand on business, when you stand on when you stand on your authentic self, right? Knowing that this is a creation that's perfectly made in the image of God, right? There's going to be something that when you stand on business, when you're authentic, when you don't swag and you're not in the middle in the gray zone and you say no, there's like an automatic protection that comes from that, because it's going to go down or it's not. And either way, you standing on business, you standing your ground, you sticking to your boundaries, it's going to lead better for you than not. Right? Boundaries protect your energy, your time, and your values. And all of that will be protected when you stand, when you have boundaries and you stick to your boundaries. I'm not doing that. You can say what you want to say. You can say it's stupid for going. Okay, I could take that. But you're not gonna say I'm weak for doing for for doing something that I knew I did not want to do, that did not resonate and sit with my body. That's okay. I could take that. I could take all of it. I could take all of it. Standing on business. Those pillars are strong. And my boundaries, my no. I had a strong no back as a 16, 17-year-old. I had a strong no. I'm proud of myself. Give yourself a pat on the back, okay? Pat on the back. Again, we're asking ourselves these two questions as we're talking about our boundaries and self leadership. Where in my life am I compromising my boundaries to be accepted? Where are you doing this? Where? Because we want to be aware of it. You will only be aware of it. This is a no judgment. We're not judging it. We just want to be aware of it. I want to know where it's at. I need to know where it's at so that I can address it and I can see Is this a line? Or if it's compromising my boundaries, how am I compromising my boundaries to be accepted? Is that something that is really aligned with who I am? And then you can make the adjustment. And then in the second question, what boundary can I set this week to support who I'm becoming? That's how you can adjust that. All right. Y'all, I love it here. I love it here with you guys over here at Introducing Podcasts because y'all are the best. And I really am truly, eternally grateful for this season of introducing because it feels it feels very smart video girlish. It feels like me. I feel like I can show up as myself, even though I was doing that before. This feels more like me. And so, in that 2 years, lead yourself first. The power of boundaries is what we're talking about. Give an example. The last 2 years that I've been on break or hiatus from introducing podcasts, I have been like that was a boundary. I'm not doing anything that it didn't feel right. Like I was supposed to come back probably September of 2023 and I did not. And then I just set out all 24 and I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. And it was honoring the growth process that I was in. And even though I felt like I was supposed to come back, right? Right? Because I didn't want to lose supporters, or I didn't want to lose followers, or I didn't want to lose momentum, being accepted. But I wasn't interested in that. I was really interested in the personal growth and development that I have been in to even be able to come here and do the podcast in this state like this at this time. So, be a leader of yourself. Be the leader of yourself. I have gone to the point where the things that I'm doing now, most of these projects, most of the work that I'm doing now is for me. Where 2 years ago, even after I said that I was quitting, I was still working and I allowed myself to be disrespected. I allowed myself to be devalued because I didn't set boundaries in the work relationships and client relationships that I had, knowing good and well that I wanted to work on my show, on my stuff, on my things. But I digress. But I'm here now and I'm happy about it because I became the leader of myself. Oh my God. I am so about to cry. Hello, Father. Thank you for joining us today. My father said, never compromise your faith. And that is the truth. That right there is it. Never compromise your faith. Do the work, keep the faith. Okay? Y'all know that's big to me. So never ever compromise your faith. All right? That's a boundary right there. That should be on everybody's list. Never give up your faith. All right. Never let someone impede on your faith because that's a relationship that you have. All right. Thank you, Tiffany. I appreciate you for coming by. Tell a friend. I hope you all hit the bell notification thing. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I will be here doing this like every week. Okay. Every week. I love you guys so much. Again, leadership starts with you, and your boundaries are the blueprint. So thank you for spending time with me today. If this resonated with you, share the episode with someone who may need to hear about the power of boundaries, of how to be a leader of yourself first. And don't forget, next week we're going to dive into some other topics that go along with this. I haven't quite decided yet what that's going to be. All right. But we will be back. And don't forget that your boundaries are not permanent. They grow as you grow. Okay? They're not so you must practice and put them into practice. Until then, stay aligned with your true authentic self, and I'll see you next week. Peace out.